Twitchy Dolphin Media presents Let's Get To. It's baseball from sea to shining sea by the team that brings you home. And now, your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. I am your host, James Christopher, and we have a fun episode for you today. We're going to be visiting with our buddy Matt out in Pennsylvania as he talks to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. We're also going to be looking at baseball through the eyes of some of our younger fans and one young producer on the show. And then it kind of got me thinking, are we overthinking? Are we overthinking things when it comes to baseball? Now, we all acknowledge that the average age of the fan is getting old. Honestly, if I'm the average age demographic, that's a problem for the future of your sport. But how do we get more fans, and how do we get, more importantly, younger fans engaged in the game? Now, this leads to what I believe has been some overthinking on the part of Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball. Now, if you're scoring at home, we've added pitch clocks to make the thing that we want people to love shorter. You know what I want less of? Things I like. I'd like fewer jerseys, please. Somebody take some of my hats off my hands because I just need fewer of those. No, I don't need or want any more Star Wars toys. And honestly, I'll have the 12-ounce steak, not the 14-ounce steak, said no one ever, at least not in my house. Now, not all of the changes are bad, but if you're scoring at home, we've gotten a universal DH, bigger bases, ghost runners that used to only exist on the playground, and City Connect uniforms. We've got games on Apple, games on Peacock. We've got games on Amazon, but not in the Amazon. All of these great bells and whistles, again, leads to the conclusion that we're overthinking. For me, the answer to growing baseball is simple. Baseball's great. It's exciting. It can be tense. It can be suspenseful. It's also the game that allows you to really hang out with people and connect. At a football game, you have a job to do when you're in the crowd. At baseball, you can just hang out and talk, have a beer. So all the window dressing that they've added is to hide the real way to grow the game. And the real way you grow the game is to make it less expensive so families can go. Make it less expensive to get a hot dog, a drink, and a ball cap. It shouldn't be a line item in a family's budget so that way the average American can go enjoy America's pastime. All these games on Peacock, Apple, wherever the heck, remove blackout restrictions so that we can actually watch the games of the teams we like. Fix those issues and you will start to see the average age of the fan drop. It's actually a pretty simple math, except that MLB owners are greedy. Later on, we're going to talk about a town that has baseball since the 1880s. The problem is not the game. The problem is when number crunchers who don't really understand why baseball is beautiful spend their time overcomplicating things. That's how we keep baseball going. We allow people to actually enjoy it. Now, speaking of going, we do have a great show for you, so stick with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your scorecards. We have a special guest in the lineup.
And welcome back to Let's Get To. We have a very special guest today. We have Brooke Self with us, and we're beginning a couple of interviews, starting with Brooke, about baseball through the eyes of teenagers. So, Brooke, first of all, thanks for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You're a longtime Red Sox fan. How did that start for you?
Well, so my dad is a big Red Sox fan. He grew up in Danvers, and our Nana also grew up in Boston, and so it's really from her. And just like I grew up just like loving the Red Sox and watching it with him. And like at summers, we'd often go to Boston and we'd see Red Sox games. It was like the highlight.
If a Yankee fan walked in here now, would you throw hands? I mean, would you be enraged?
No, I just like give them a glare, like, and just kind of know that like I have a better heart than them, and
I think it's
settled at that.
I think that's fair. What about like games around here? Obviously, we're not in Boston. Do you make it out to Round Rock games ever? Do you go down to Houston when the Red Sox are ever in town? Any of that fun stuff?
I did go to Houston one time for the ALCS a few years ago.
You've been to an ALCS game?
Yeah, I remember
in 2018.
No.
Oh my God. That's when the Astros lost to the Red Sox in the ALCS.
Yeah. So.
No.
But
Sorry.
that was really fun. And I just remember watching the playoffs and be like, please, Red Sox make it, Astros make it. Like, are the Red Sox going to win against the Astros? Maybe, probably not. They didn't, but it's fine. They won the game I went to, and I'm happy about that. So it's okay.
Well, there you go. And not any Round Rock stuff. You've not made it up.
I have not been to Round Rock. I've been to a UT baseball game, but
Okay.
I really want to go to Round Rock. And my dad and I are planning to go to a Rangers game, but the Red Sox don't play the Rangers at a convenient time for us. So
Yeah.
we just might go to a random one just to visit.
Also, the Rangers play what looks like an old tool shed, so it doesn't really matter. You're not missing much. So you are a student at St. Michael's. And you did the Honors Inquiry Project. Can you explain to me what that is?
So basically, it's a year-long class, and each student chooses a project of their liking to basically, they do a extensive amount of research the first semester, and then the second semester they choose a research project they have to propose, and then they execute that project. And then now at this point in the year, we start putting that all together and making conclusions, and we have a big presentation at the end.
Okay, have you done your presentation yet?
No, that is soon.
Whoa, okay. And you've given us your time while still working on that.
Yeah.
I'm honored. Now, you're on the show because of your project, so why don't you explain to me a little bit about what your project is and what you learned?
So my project is basically looking at baseball throughout American history and analyzing whether or not it has helped boost morale or help unify the U.S. at all throughout history. So I started researching with the civil rights when it was first, with Jackie Robinson, and then also the Civil War when baseball was first created, and just looking how that helped unite the two divided sides of the war.
Yeah.
And they used Confederates would play in prison camps with the prison guards, and it was just after the war ended, it just was something to bond over at that very messy time. And then also looking at World War II and Roosevelt's Green Letter and the American Women's Baseball League, and also just getting into the 9/11 and Boston bombing, the influence baseball has had on that.
Was your influence, was your conclusion that largely it's been positive? And did you find any negative correlation to American life and baseball?
I found that it was pretty much all positive, that it just really just helped boost morale and was a way for the country to unite throughout history. So 9/11, for example, obviously terrible time, everyone's just shocked at the world, and just continuing to play baseball, I think, just helped them realize life can go on, we're okay, we're fine. It was just a way to unite together during such a divided time.
I remember being in the military when that happened, and we were stationed overseas, and we were all getting up at 4 a.m. to watch that World Series, because it did mean that. And I think that's the only time anybody's ever rooted for the Yankees that didn't live in New York. Although former Astro did win the game for them. A little bit about just, I guess, your process then. Was it easy to find the information? I think baseball's a pretty well documented sport. Did you find was it mostly books and articles? Did you go to any documentary footage, that kind of thing?
So it was mostly articles or museum websites had a lot of information. The 9/11 museum had a lot. And then I did watch a few documentaries. I don't remember the name, my bad. And just general feedback from people, and just a lot of reading, really.
You touched last question, then you touched on Jackie Robinson, and I think we might have gotten to the point where we celebrate him so much. You have the 42 initiative in Major League Baseball. Now minor league baseball does the 9. Are we starting to maybe soften how impactful that was? Because it seemed like that was way before there was really desegregation. How important really was he to making all that happen? I think he is so vital, and I do appreciate that we try to make it more well known, and we wear 42. But like you said, I do think that can just be overlooked. It's oh, it's Jackie Robinson Day, yay! Kind of happens to Independence Day and stuff. It's what is that? So I think it is important to just remind ourselves how important that was to be the first African American baseball player to just break the
like segregation, and like I think it's so impactful and I think it's so huge, and we do need to really try to like remember that.
Okay, now this is my last question, I promise. One of the things baseball talks about is that baseball fans are getting older. Like, I'm now the median age of baseball fans, and I was famously blocked on Twitter, and I'm a nice guy, but by the Astros beat writer Chandler Rome, because he questioned Princess Night, and I was like, look, it's important. We got to bring young kids out. How do we reach your generation and maybe kids younger than you? Maybe it's hard to answer because you already love the game, but what can we do to at least get people into the ballpark?
Well, I think it is tough because I feel like your love for baseball is just like exponential, and like starting off is like hard, like because most people are like baseball boring and they don't understand the rules. And I think like getting to understand the rules it's like a process, and this is boring. So I think just getting them when they're young little tots, I think that's the best. So it doesn't feel like they're learning rules. It feels like they're learning a game, and just make it more like of a game and a place to go with your friends and your family and just grow a community rather than just like they're trying to hit a ball and a bat, and like simplifying it, I guess. And just like more outreach, I feel like you said, I support Princess Night.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I think like even making the games like shorter with pitch clock, I think that helps the younger generation. I mean, I like my long baseball games, but
Me too.
I think that does help because our generation has a very short attention span, if I'm being honest.
No. Well, first of all, I think that's an amazing answer. I'm glad that there's at least the game is in good hands. Thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your scorecards. We have a special guest in the lineup.
So as we continue looking at baseball through the eyes of a high school student, we actually had Brooke Self on before you talking about her honors research project. We've got Brady Hess, who just played his last game with St. Michael's Catholic Academy. So Brady, talk to me a little bit about just that experience, again, walking off the field for the last time. Was it a lot emotional, I'm guessing?
Yes, very emotional because, I mean, you know, you don't realize how fast it goes by because I can remember like my first freshman at bat. It seems so recent, and it seemed like I had a long time, and you kind of just don't. And the hard part is losing the teammates because you build such a bond with them because every day in spring after school you go out and those are the guys you're with for a couple hours, and when you're in trouble and out of condition or when you're happy you're with the same guys. So you kind of build like a family bond with them. And just leaving them and, you know, seeing them hug me as it's my last game, it was really hard.
Because you were the only senior this year that could
yes.
play.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Everybody was a little beat up.
There was only one other senior, and he tore his ACL, so he was out.
Why did you do that?
Football.
That seemed like a silly decision. So you're off to play college baseball. Now talk to me a little bit about where you're going and why how that decision came about.
So I'm playing baseball at Whittier College in Los Angeles. A big factor was I have a lot of family there. But I was originally not really going to play baseball because my parents kind of always talked about how it's better to go to a big school and get a whole college experience.
Yeah.
But over my senior year, I realized I wasn't ready to be done because there would just be too much about baseball I miss playing, you know, connecting with teammates, seeing them play, playing with them. And so I decided I want to stick with baseball going into next year.
The work life, I guess you call it work life, or the sort of school practice, college athlete part of it. I know other students of mine who've gone on to do that. It's tough. Are you prepared? And is the school prepared to sort of help you get through particularly your first year doing that?
Yeah. So when I first toured the school, they immediately told me, you know, workout schedules, and you'd have to take your classes in the afternoon so you can work out in the morning and everything. You know, they kind of told me everything, and I'm prepared. It's going to be a lot, but I'm still excited for it because I think it'll be fun. Overall.
Have you picked a major and all that stuff yet?
Yes, I'm going to be majoring in criminal justice.
Wow. So you want to get a job after college?
Yes.
Huh. I got a film degree and a history degree, so hi, from St. Michael's Catholic Academy as a teacher. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you are a big Giants fan.
Yes.
You are to the Giants as I am to the Astros, which means you watch all 162. For you, it will only be 162 this year.
It will. It will.
Where are you sitting? Because I mean, you also came of age though when they were doing that. They had that dynasty. That's enough to sustain you for a while, I assume. How do you feel about the direction of the team?
Well, the offseason was heartbreaking because first they thought they had Correa and then thought they had Judge, and they got neither. So then they end up with Michael Conforto and Mitch Haniger as their big guys, who are fine, but it's kind of that's not going to make you a championship team. So I think they're just an average team. But like you mentioned, I did get to see a dynasty out of them, and most fans don't even get Cubs fans. Win a whole 100 years, probably a whole life.
6 generations of Cubs fans who are dead.
Yeah, exactly. That never saw anything. So I can't really complain. Although it does suck because the Dodgers have kind of been good my entire life, and that hurts as well because the Dodgers have been running the West for a while. But I don't know. I think they have some good prospects coming up. I think they'll be good within a few years.
It is a franchise that doesn't stay down for long.
Yes, because they got the money and they got they have the history. They like to go out and get it,
and they don't ever they never have to blow the team up to rebuild like you saw the Royals or other.
Yeah, like the A's every year will trade their stars. Giants won't do that.
Speaking of which, that's a nice segue. The Giants will be alone in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
that's at least. It's funny because I've talked to A's fans for our episode last week, and a lot of them are so apparently the A's ownership plays this game with them all the time, and that they said they will believe it when a shovel hits the ground. I actually think it's happening. So what are your thoughts on that, about not only the A's leaving and A's fans, but now have the Giants having all the Bay Area to themselves?
It's actually kind of sad. I'm going to miss because when I grew up in the Bay, and we would always, my brother's an A's fan, so we had a good Bay Bridge rivalry, and we would go to Giants-A's games, and they were always a really good time. But it's really sad because A's fans are pretty loyal. I will give them that because they've been through a lot. They have Josh Donaldson. They're good, and then they trade him, and he wins an MVP, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
Yeah,
they trade these really Matt Olson, Matt Chapman are killing it right now after they just traded him. So it's a big cycle that they have to deal with, and they're loyal. But also, I do think it could be a benefit if they go to Vegas and they have a ton of money and they can go out and spend and become a really good team again.
What's interesting about that? I'll get your thoughts on that because I did talk to that A's fan, and he said that that's what people think. But that this owner actually is one of the richest owners already in baseball, and he still doesn't spend.
Yeah, so he doesn't spend. Yeah.
I almost wonder if part of it's MLB requiring a trade, sell the team at some point.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But yeah, I hear the same thing about the owner. He just doesn't like to spend.
Again, just like having Brooke on the show, you are a person of a certain age who already sort of grew up liking this game. But you're also sitting through watching all these really weird rules, and there's going to be new rules coming. Like designated runner might be a thing at some point.
Yeah.
Is this enough to get people of your generation in, or how is Major League Baseball missing out on your generation?
I mean, for sure, I like the increased size of the bag because the whole stolen base thing, with Ricky Henderson, that was before my time, so I never really got to see that.
Right.
So I think it's cool to bring in stolen bases as more of a part of the game, and I think the pitch clock when watching on TV is cool. But I'm worried, like I mentioned, I'm going to the Giants-Astros game Wednesday. I'm wondering how it's going to affect being at the ballpark because you won't be there as long, and I don't know if you'll get the same experience as you normally would.
It's when you also factor in how much you pay, and you're driving. So you know what I mean? It definitely impacts your time in the ballpark.
So I'm a little worried about that, but I think on TV it's kind of cool because it does go quicker, but. I like that they're trying to change the game. I mean, I think any change could be good change because, it could interest some people out there that want to come watch. But I think a designated runner would be dumb. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be dumb.
Unless it was for Martin Maldonado. Of course, he has to get on base first, which, that doesn't really happen a whole lot. So, but what else? I've talked to you guys about the minor leagues before and how, every night is an event that's not just on the field. I mean, is that what Major League Baseball needs to steer to?
I think they should do that, or at least once a week or something.
Yeah.
Get like the you mentioned they had the kid come out and what did he do? Throw the first pitch?
Oh, the kid who was the kid that was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they signed him for he's like an honorary player of the day. So he got to do basically shadow the entire team for the day.
Yeah. See, I think that's really cool. I think MLB could do that, and I think that would benefit the game a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I what I don't get is Nike put this really weird rule on that they can only have 4 jerseys a year now plus their City Connect. And it's like, why not? I'm going to the Astros Star Wars night. Every minor league baseball team has a Star Wars. Why shouldn't the Astros be able to play in what I mean? All I want to do is give you more money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more fun. Like the City Connect jerseys are fun. I think a lot of people really like that. Why not just kind of add to it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is there a favorite one you have?
I would say I think my favorite's the White Sox one. The South Side, I really like that one. Ever since I first saw it, I thought it was really cool. The one problem I have with it, though, is it's it's very similar to what the White Sox already have.
Yeah, like it fits like a natural progression of the uniform set.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I really like Miami. I really like San Diego.
I love Miami.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's about all the time we have for Brady. Thanks for jumping on. Good luck in the future. I can't wait to follow you.
Thank you.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, digging into baseball's past.
And welcome to another edition of Raiders of the Lost Diamond. Now, there's a section of today's youth, and yes, I get how old that makes me sound, that thinks that if it didn't happen in their lifetime, well, it didn't happen. Now, on this show, we often find a city in the U.S. and discuss a team that played ball there in any given era. To me, there's nothing better than baseball history. But sometimes that narrow focus doesn't paint the full picture of just how much baseball did exist. So in keeping with the theme of a high school student-driven episode, I asked Shelby, one of our young producers of the show, to research all the teams that played in the Lehigh Valley era before the Iron Pigs showed up. Now, what she found were a string of teams dating back to the 1880s, making the Lehigh Valley area a fertile ground for baseball. In the 1880s, you had the Dukes, the Peanuts, and the Colts. I dug the idea behind Kelly's Killers, the squad in 1894, named for player-manager Mike Kelly. We need more player managers. I need Dusty out there taking grounders. Now, in 1898, how can you not root for the Allentown Goobers? Baseball continued pretty much uninterrupted, even through World War II, where you could check out the Allentown Fleet Winds, the Fleet Wings, and the Cardinal. It's a lot of weird names to reuse. Now, in 1997, you rooted for the Allentown Ambassadors until 2003. And then in 2008, the longest run of baseball in the Lehigh Valley, the Iron Pigs first picked up a ball at Coca-Cola Field, bringing baseball history with it. So as you can see, a long run of baseball. And even when the names change, the game still stays the same. I'd like to now invite Shelby onto the show to talk a little bit about her experience researching this week's episode of Raiders of the Lost Diamond. So speaking of Shelby, I'm very excited to welcome her to the show. She's going to be a producer on the show for at least the next year and a half. How are you?
I'm good, Mr. D. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Not a big baseball fan naturally going in, right?
Not really, no.
Do you have a favorite pro team?
The Dodgers. I know you're not going to like that
and
answer.
Matt and Shelby's association with Let's Get To, folks. I would like to all give her a big round of applause as we dedicate in memoriam this episode to her. You've been doing a lot of the research for this most recent episode of Raiders of the Lost Diamond. What are some things that you sort of learned about the game of baseball going through that research?
I didn't realize that baseball went as far back in history as it did. Like the team that I researched, they went back to the 1880s, which is like a really long time ago, and I didn't really think about that. But I also just like learned about the progression of teams and like how the names change and like everything like that.
For as goofy as the names can get, I can't imagine anybody rolling up for the Peanuts again. Like seriously, like maybe that's like a one-off weekend name, but I can't imagine.
Oh yeah,
people getting fired up. Give them allergies. Let's go. I don't know how that works. What was it like though? You have really dove into the researching part. Talk to me a little bit about joining the team, what that was like for you and how you've enjoyed working on it, or have you enjoyed working on it?
I have enjoyed working on it. I was a little nervous when you asked me to come on. I don't really know a lot about baseball, and the entire rest of the team is guys. But
guys all sitting behind camera judging your baseball knowledge right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Except for Tanner, who's all like, I'd be a big Peanuts fan. What are you talking about?
But yeah, I just learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from them as well, and from you, and also just my research, and I'm glad to be on the team and happy to continue working on it.
Was it cool to see words you wrote and found out spoken on the show?
Yeah, it actually was. I wasn't really expecting you to, like, actually use it, but watching you talk about what I researched and everything on your show, it was, I don't know. It was good.
Because this is what you want to do, like broadcasting and mass media is what you want to do.
Yes, correct.
So what have you learned in this class, or what can I do for your senior year to help make that transition for you a little easier, or do you feel like you're on a good path? I mean, where do you think things are?
You've helped me a lot already. You got me started on my podcast, and you've helped me with my blog that I have. I was kind of struggling in trying to find out what I was passionate about in sports and what I was going to really write about. and having you there to help me has really propelled me on my path.
And let everybody know, first of all, where they can find the blog and what you are passionate about when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah. My blog is called The A Game. You can just, it's on the internet. You can look it up.
Use the Google machine.
Use the Google machine. I'm passionate about sports in general, but football especially. I've grown up around it, and my family is really like immersed in the culture of football. And it's what makes me happy and what makes me want to actually do what I'm doing.
And now you're not originally from Texas.
No, I'm from LA.
And you moved here about, what, a year ago?
Like 10.
10 years ago. Why did I think? Oh, because you came here late. That's
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
She came here late, everybody. Calm down. So I guess you wouldn't know, like, was it a big culture shock to go from California, which I know doesn't really do high school football the way we do, and just how different that is. I mean, it's pretty intense down here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a really big like differentiation between the two, but watching my friends that I have in California and their football teams compared to ours in here, it's astonishing at the difference.
I remember driving somewhere and we pulled up to a junior college, and its football stadium was smaller than Lake Travis's, and my wife was like, "Oh, that's adorable." Isn't that cute? Well, Shelby, I really look forward to working with you on this. I've been very impressed with you being your teacher, and I can't wait to see what you do next year and beyond. And thanks for jumping on Let's Get To.
Thank you, Mr. D. I appreciate it.
On the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
You know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean, the fellas'
Who's on
base.
first? The Let's Get To team of the week.
And we are excited to welcome to Let's Get To, longtime friend of the show. He's the vice president for marketing and entertainment of your Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. Matt, how you doing? Matt Bari, what's going on?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again. 15 days away from our home opener, so we're just, putting the final touches on everything. It's been a long but really short off season. It's weird.
Let's talk off season for a second, because I'm always curious when you took the job a few months before the season started last year. So this is really your first full off season. Was this the off season where you really started to be able to put your stamp on how the team is marketed, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. It was weird coming in last year in 2020. I started in January with the Iron Pigs. So starting that late in the process, a lot of things are already completed, and you're really just picking up the pieces that were left for you. Where this off season, basically started in December, because October, November, we were following the playoff run for the Phillies.
Right.
It seems like it was delayed. Baseball never ended, but yes,
right.
Being able to put our, my stamp on it. I have a lot of new faces in our marketing department here. So we're really excited about what we can do for this season.
You're 15 days out. Now, we're obviously, this episode is going to drop a little bit later, but I'm curious now, is it just straight, pardon my French, but jumping through your ass time? Like, I mean, is it just nonstop?
Yeah, it really has been. I mean, through December, with just different deadlines we have for artwork and hats and things for the future. I mean, it's not even just this season. So you're juggling multiple years of work at the same time, while just trying to get prepared for what's next ahead of you in a month. So,
and when do you start worrying about 24? I mean, when do those conversations start? Have they already started?
Yeah, most of them are, to an extent already complete. So it's weird to think that, but that's just kind of the timeline on how everything is now. Just making sure we can get hats and jerseys and ideas on paper as early as possible. Usually we start I'll say around end of June, early July, and then we really start kicking off in August for the next season. So we're still in season when we start having to look at what we're doing next year.
I just can't imagine, because I know how hard you work, having gotten to shadow you last year. Listen, I'm going through the promo schedule. I am just very, very excited looking at your promo calendar. And one of the things I wanted to ask about that I kind of really love is you guys are doing Education Day. Tell me a little bit about what Education Day is.
Yeah, so I think a lot of teams do something similar. It's basically a field trip day for schools. they can come in we start the games at 11 a.m. We have different packages built up for food and tickets and things like that. So schools will bust their kids in, and we play an early 11 a.m. game. I am going to incorporate some of the things that I've done in the past on these types of days, back in my days in Midland, Texas, that I know were fan favorites for the kids. And it's something that they haven't done, obviously, in a couple of years here in the Lehigh Valley. So it's good to get those back, and be able to bring that type of atmosphere. Having, early morning games are a lot of fun. I know we don't do a lot of them for the players' sake, but being able to do those and have just the ballpark full of kids, it's a cool experience.
I got to imagine so. I mean, and you guys are so like, you have the mascot game is on point. I got to imagine it's just a lot of fun, probably particularly for them.
Yeah, just the entertainment is the same thing that we focus on for all of our other games, but we kind of just change it around a little bit and try to incorporate some educational stuff in, and then when we get into our other theme nights, we're doing some wacky stuff this year.
Now what I don't consider wacky, but the very next night, Star Wars night, and it's so funny to me because it's one of the most ubiquitous promotional nights of the year. What are y'all doing special for it? And then I'm curious because I've heard, and you can agree or disagree, but I've heard from some that working with Star Wars is super easy. Working Marvel is a little bit more difficult. Isn't that fascinating that they're both Disney? So a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually love working with Lucasfilms and Disney on this. So I think the difference there between that and Marvel is Marvel's still new in this landscape. So those processes and years of experience that I think Star Wars, I remember back in 2015 having options for jerseys and being able to do a Star Wars night, but to do that licensing process was a lot more stringent than it is now, where it's pretty turnkey at this point. They're used to doing it. Obviously they continue to have content with shows like The Mandalorian, like the jersey that we'll be sporting on field. I think that's where it really comes in, is just there's been years of experience with it, where Marvel, it's, especially with the way we're doing it now, is everybody has their own Marvel logo. So they have their own brand and identity built into Marvel. So it's the first year for everybody to have that type of process. So it's a little bit different, right? You're ordering things differently. And, some are doing multiple games with characters or not. So, we're doing one, our Defender of the Diamond, on June 17th this year, and with our new Marvel character.
How much input did you guys have on the design of the new characters? I know some of them were knocked out of the park. Some of them didn't work as well. I'm curious as to, did y'all have any part of that process?
Yeah. So, it was, I think, Marvel's first time designing sports logos. So it was their artists that jumped into that process, and we had input throughout the process too. So it was a more streamlined process. It probably was a little bit quicker timeline than we normally take with our theme nights. But it was cool to kind of see a different perspective on that, and kind of tie in that comic book look to our logo, and be more creative with it. So it's not just the Iron Pig head or bacon as you see with our brand, even though we try to have as much fun with those as possible. But it was just a different process. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
Kind of the last thing I want to talk about theme nights, and it's kind of been the drum I've beaten on this show about why they're important. I am proudly blocked by Astros beat writer Chandler Rome because he dared make fun of Princess Night, and I basically schooled him, and that was his response. He's a very thin-skinned individual. But what I love about you guys is the recognition that the community is bigger than just what's at the ballpark. And you guys have a faith and family night, and then I think a week later you're doing your Pride Night, which and there are some segments of the country that think those two are completely mutually exclusive. How important is it, though, to be able to reach out to get everybody to the ballpark to see if they love this game or not?
It's what we base our entire business off of, is making sure that people come to the games and have a good time. So, and I understand we try to be respectful to, all sides of views and in every which way. But, I don't think it's something that teams should be making the decision on what their fans do and don't like, right? I think it's giving opportunities to each different kind of part of the community or segment in the community that, it kind of goes back to that inclusive feeling here at the ballpark. Like, just because you don't support or like something one way or the other,
Yeah.
That's fine. That game is not meant for you that night. But we have, probably 74 other games that you'll enjoy coming to.
Right. And I never, I never understood complaining about either of the two. Again, actually, I lied to you. The paranormal patrol night. Do I need to find a way to come up here for this? What's going on?
It is very similar to a Ghostbusters-esque night.
Mm-hmm.
We have like to play on the name a little bit, and it's just one of those fan favorites that we've done for years. Tying into some of the very similar things that you'd see or based on some famous movies in the past, same as Jurassic Pork Night. Those, I think that's like the third or fourth year we've done that in a row. And it's funny. I won't tell you on camera. I'll tell you off camera where some of those ideas have come from. Mm-hmm. But it's funny how an idea can just turn into a theme night the way they do. So
I'm definitely still looking for someone to have a Jaws night, and I don't know why. Last question before we have some fun with the rapid fire thing. Phillies made to the World Series, made to Game 6. How much does the success of that team now going to carry over to excitement about what's going to be going on with the Iron Pigs, knowing that there's always players going up and down and you've got potentially rehab assignments, things like that?
Yeah, I think, this is a fan base because we're so close to our parent club that we're always going to have that type of hype around the team and the prospects, right? You have Reading, that's about 40 minutes down the road from us. It's an hour drive to Philly. You got Jersey Shore, that's about an hour and change from us. It's an hour to Philly. You got us. Yeah. We're an hour to Philly. So it's unique having everybody right around the area. I guess Clearwater's in Clearwater, but Florida's it's its own area with baseball, right? They have baseball year round, but it seems like people really only care about spring training, and then they get with the Clearwater during the season. I've never been down there, so I don't know how their hype goes, but they probably don't see as much because they're so far. But it's such a strong fan base that you don't see that with other teams, even if they were close. So being embedded now into this community and with these fans and being able to personally experience the playoff run and being at the World Series and feeling that energy, I've definitely seen that spill over to what we're doing here. Even with our Iron Pigs charities, we did our Phillies Winter Caravan in January. We had Alec Boehm, Brandon Marsh, and Dalton Guthrie there. Tom McCarthy was our moderator for their Q&A on stage, and Sam Fold came down and was at the event as well. So having that relationship with them be so close, and that they want to be a part of what we're doing here as much as we are a part of what they're doing there, and in that extension, it really helps. And that was one of our biggest, charity events that we do every year. And it was one of our biggest in history because of that, I think.
Oh, I mean, I love the answer. I've actually got a customized Philadelphia rapid fire question in there for you. You ready to play a little rapid fire?
All right, let's do it.
All right. What is your favorite part about the off season?
Coming up with new ideas to use in the future.
Okay. All right. Now listen, when you visit a city, what is your go-to food that helps define the town? Like for me, it's pizza. If I'll have a pizza in every city I'll go to. What is your go-to food to kind of measure a town?
I think it's based on if they're famous for anything.
Okay.
If you go somewhere, you have to try it. So, if you're going to Ohio and you're going to Cincinnati, you got to try like Skyline Chili, for example.
Absolutely. All right. Godfather 1 or 2?
1.
Dad hat, flex fit, or fitted?
I'm going to go with baby hat.
Comically oversized. I'm into it. Yeah.
Dad hat.
Okay. So Philadelphia has had 3 pretty heartbreaking sports experiences: the World Series, the Super Bowl, and the MLS. Which one do you think upset Philly fan more?
I think the Phillies losing hurt the worst. The Eagles losing made people the most angry. And the MLS, people didn't know about because it was the World Series at the time, mainstream. Right. But when you add them all together, it just hurts even. It's like that cherry on top of the pain.
I kind of love that answer, though, because when my football team loses, I get physically angry. When the Astros lose, I get sad. And I do think that's maybe the nature of the two sports. All right, last question. We've got a bunch of new rules in Major League Baseball. Name one that you want to stay and one that you wish would go.
I'm glad the shift is gone.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of the pitch clocks because it limits what I can do in between innings.
Exactly. All right. He is Matt Bari of your Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. Matt, thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you this season. Go Pigs.
Let's Get To presents Lights, Camera, Play Ball, Inside Baseball Cinema. Lights, camera, play ball. The best in baseball cinema.
And welcome back to Lights, Camera, Play Ball, our look at baseball cinema. And I am producing this segment on Major League Baseball's opening day. Now, is there a day any more hopeful? A glorious summer awaits us all. Everyone's still in it. Yes, even if your team loses tonight or gets swept in the whole series, you're still in it. It's beautiful. There's even bunting, and I mean the kind of bunting that even Emily Nyman would like. It's kind of like a religion for me. What's the line in Bull Durham that there's 108 beads on a Catholic rosary and 108 stitches in a baseball? Although we did learn that Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball. I'm confused. This is for another show. But I do love opening day. In my movie, The 5-Year, my character's favorite day of the year is Astros opening day. Just listen to my sister, played by Shelby Cullinan, explain it.
My family, we've always picked a day out of the year. Pops is opening day of baseball season, and the family gets together and goes to the Astros game.
But in fact, my love for the Astros has always invaded my films, even our second one from almost 15 years ago.
So, hey, Mike and I were thinking about catching a ball game. Astros playing the Cubs.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I love the Cubbies.
Yeah, we're kind of Astros fans.
We are Astros fans.
Yeah, I'm gonna go close out my tab.
Ah, the awkwardness of a woman's husband and ex-boyfriend trying to talk baseball, and one of them's a Cubs fan. But back to the movie at hand. I finally saw the movie Hardball, and I'm not really sure what took me so long. Part of it is a very mixed opinion on Keanu Reeves' oeuvre. Oeuvre? I'm not your Matrix fan. I think Bill and Ted is pretty obnoxious, but I dug Constantine, and listen, the John Wick movies are a blast. So to sum it up, he's not the run out and see the new movie just because he's in it guy. He's not Tom Cruise for me. Now, Hardball couldn't be a more different role for him, and even though I don't think much of him as an actor, his understated style really hits home in this role. Case in point, the show up speech is understated. It's not the normal rah-rah moment typical of sports movies, and in this flick, it's perfect. Now, Hardball is one of those movies that needs to be seen, and I'm ashamed that it took me 26 years-ish to get to it. It brings out what baseball can be at its best, something that brings us all together. In Hardball, Keanu plays loser Connor O'Neill, duped into coaching a baseball league for underprivileged black kids. It's set in the backdrop of urban housing projects, intense poverty, and gang violence. And while the end of the movie might be predictable, Connor's going to learn to be a better person as he invests himself in these kids for the right reasons, as he then experiences a taste of their daily life. Movies are often about the journey, not the destination. The predictability doesn't matter. And the journey in this movie is both touching and tragic. Now, I freely admit that outside of movies like this and Boys in the Hood and Spike Lee movies of the 90s, I have zero experience with what this kind of poverty, racism, and daily brushes with death can do to the spirit of kids at this age. This is an example where my own white privilege definitely comes into play. Yes, kids, white privilege is a thing, though it's not exactly what I think everybody thinks it is. Now, I'm not unfamiliar with these situations. I've seen more death, hopelessness, and poverty than anyone should see. All you got to do is Google Bosnia in the 1990s and you'll get an idea of what I've seen. But that's Europe. That's another place. It's not here. And seeing it in our cities, honestly, it really hit home. Now, this movie works, and the fact is the movie wouldn't work if these kids couldn't act. And when you've got a great cast of kids just like Hardball does, the possibilities are endless. And these kids drive home their desire for any kind of way out, any kind of distraction from the dangers of their day-to-day world with realistic, sometimes humorous, often devastating effect. We see this in Jamal, played expertly by Michael B. Jordan. Seriously, did this guy just walk out of the womb knowing how to act? The beats where he learns he can't play on the team anymore, the utter panic that, on the surface and in any other setting, might have just come across as a kid throwing a temper tantrum, plays as if it's a kid who realizes that baseball is his literal last chance to have a safe life. It's heart-wrenching. It's gut-punching. And this isn't a movie about fairy tales, so when we see him later on, having been indoctrinated into a gang, the death of his youth in his eyes, we see the endgame of that tragedy. Baseball was his way out, and it was taken away from him. The kids feel like real people. They sound real. They're lived-in characters carrying all the hope and desire of any kids, but weighed down by the reality of their situation. Honestly, the cast is a director's dream. And when we see Dwayne Warren's G-Baby, the heart of the movie, taken down by a bullet, the feelings of hopelessness and sadness are real. Nothing feels forced or dramatic for dramatic's sake. And yes, I spoiled a 20-something-year-old movie. Like all good baseball movies, it's not just about baseball. It's a movie about finding hope and truth and finding a distraction from the real world. One of the best beats is when the kids get to go to a Cubs game to see Sammy Sosa. And you see what baseball can do in this moment, and in a piece of brilliant directing, the kids mistake a different player for Sammy at first. And it drives home that these kids might not have ever actually seen their hero before. The whole scene at Wrigley Field is baseball at its best, and that's hard for me to say anything good about Wrigley. Now, the movie also features Diane Lane as the teacher trying to desperately reach these kids in what is an impossible situation. Now, I know this narrative has been done to death. Michelle Pfeiffer, anyone? But Diane Lane is the master of the subtle performance and really drives home the exhaustion level of someone trying to pull these kids upstream when the current of their everyday world threatens to consume them. Now, there has been some recent criticism of Hardball falling into a white savior narrative and thus should be canceled. I'm not going to wade into this whole debate except to say this. The fact is, we need more movies where we see positive examples of Black and brown people, of women, of the LGBTQ community. We need to see those movies made. We need to see content made by them. But we also aren't going to see these spaces filled by canceling what came before. The path to greater harmony, understanding, and equality is best paved by elevating the voices that are underserved, not necessarily canceling all the voices that came before it. Though I guess if I were to make a joke about it, we are the country that wants to cancel Abraham Lincoln, so nothing should surprise me. Now, the fact is, Hardball, it's an important movie. It matters. And if we want to raise the next generation correctly, we shouldn't shy away from any display of love, of positivity, of hope. We need it. We need to be honest with ourselves when we say that the world right now can really suck. Why get rid of anything that might try to bring some positivity or love to it? It might be the only thing that can actually save, particularly our country, from heading down a path I'm not sure we can get back from. I loved Hardball. My buddy Jeremy insisted that I watch it, and to him I want to say thank you.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So it does wrap up this episode of Let's Get To. I want to thank Brooke and Brady and Shelby so much for jumping on and for helping us out with the show. I want to also thank my St. Michael's broadcasting students, all of whom are behind the camera, who've been helping us get the show made. And thanks to our old friend Matt for jumping on and again joining the show. He is part of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs front office. We're back next week with our trip to Omaha as we get ready to celebrate Let's Get To's 5th birthday. I honestly can't believe that we've been doing this for 5 years. It's been such a blast. I can't wait to share some of our favorite moments, doing the show with so many people that have, from all around the country, helped contribute to make this what's become a very special part of my life. My students, to the professionals in the game, to my friends. Did it, Tanner? Did I sound jumbled? See, this is what I deal with when I'm going to leave this in the show too. Yeah, apparently I jumbled some lines. Anyway, there is so much baseball left. Is that good? Excellent. All right, great. So much baseball is left. So get out to the ball game. Spend some time with your family. And when it comes to those between innings moments, make sure that you cherish them, because that's, I think, what makes baseball really, really special. The conversations you can't have anywhere else. And again, get out to the ball game. There is baseball somewhere near you. Get you some peanuts, get you some Cracker Jack, and most importantly, let's get to. Let's Get To is presented by Twitchy Dolphin Media. Creative directors, Jessica Bybee Jedgetts. Executive producers, James Christopher, Andy Tumchesson, and Scott McIntyre. Produced by Andrew Nelson and Eric Mertens. Associate producers, Timothy Jedgetts and Jess Canaster. All content created by Let's Get To is the sole property of Twitchy Dolphin Media. All content created by teams covered in the episode are the sole property of the trademark holders.